Good morning. Welcome to Real Talks Dominate Real Estate. It's April 23rd, 2021, and I'm Charlie Bengel.
Good morning, I'm Eyerusalem Meaza. Grab a cup of coffee and let's make your real estate career better.
What's in the news today, Eyerusalem?
Real estate pros aren't giving up on direct mail to market to potential sellers. 41% of real estate professionals recently surveyed say that they are using direct mail to try to generate more listings, according to ActivePipe, an email marketing solution for real estate, which surveyed more than 1,000 brokers in February. The real estate industry has mostly not changed its marketing strategy since the pandemic began, the survey shows. Other marketing tactics real estate professionals are using are cold calling and homeowner association relationship building. 5% of respondents also reported hosting virtual events. Further, here are some of the most common ways real estate professionals said they were trying to generate more listings. 41% said they're reaching out to homeowners living in sought-after neighborhoods. 24% using technology to determine which sellers are most likely to sell. 5% connecting with new housing developers, and 2% targeting for sale by owner listings. As for the technologies they most often turn to for better outreach, real estate pros cited social media marketing, email marketing, and customer relationship management systems for organization and contact management. In other news, closed sales of existing homes fell 3.7% to March to a seasonally adjusted annualized rate of 6.01 million units, according to the National Association of Realtors. That is the slowest sales pace since August and the second straight month of declines. Still, sales were 12.3% higher than March 2020 when transactions were falling due to the COVID pandemic. Realtors say that the monthly numbers are dropping due to limited supply. The demand is there. Homes are selling in an average of just 18 days, which is considered an extremely fast rate. The supply of homes for sale fell 28.2% from a year ago. There were just 1.07 million homes for sale at the end of the month, representing a 2.1 month supply at the current sales pace. Low supply continues to push prices even higher. The median price of an existing home sold in March was $329,100, a 17.2% increase from March 2020. That is the highest price on record and the fastest pace of appreciation. Some of that gain is due to the fact that there are more homes selling on the higher end of the market, therefore skewing the median higher. Overall, however, prices are significantly higher. More homes have been coming on the market in the past few weeks, but the market is still incredibly lean, especially on the low end. Higher end home listings are more plentiful. Builders are, however, still producing well below demand levels as prices for land, labor, and materials rise. Lumber hit several new highs just this month. Some builders are delaying projects, so they're not buying materials at the peak of the market. In other news, as vaccination rates rise, many states are loosening restrictions on travelers, prompting some Americans to look for homes to book for the summer. Short-term vacation rentals are seeing a surge in demand, and their owners are prepared for a lively summer. Demand is tight, particularly as more second home buyers choose to live in those homes rather than rent them out. With the flexibility of remote work, owners are finding that they have more time to enjoy their second homes and are renting them less or not at all. Carter told the New York Times, the reduction in the supply of available homes to rent, coupled with increasing demand, and are also factors that are driving rate increases in destinations across the country. Airbnb vacation rentals nationwide in July and August are expected to average around $220 compared to last year's $194 and $185 in 2019, according to Transparent, a vacation rentals data company. Demand is growing for all types of housing, from large houses to studios and one-bedrooms. Also, property owners are reporting that more guests want to stay more than just a few days, with some opting to stay multiple weeks. They're seeing an emerging trend of slow travel, with travelers wanting to spend more time immersing themselves in a destination than they did pre-pandemic. Charlie, what's going on with rates?
Thanks, Eyerusalem. The 30-year fixed rate is 2 7/8, as is the 30-year jumbo. FHA and VA are at 2.5%. These are purchase rates brought to us by PNC Mortgage for the Washington metropolitan market. Back over to you to discuss today's market.
In the last week in Hampton Roads, we saw 801 new listings at the market, 791 properties go pending, and 724 properties sold. In the last week in the Washington metro area, within 30 miles of the White House, we saw 1,479 new listings at the market, 2,146 go pending, and 1,423 homes sold. Back over to Charlie with our special guest.
Thanks again, Eyerusalem. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the show Coach Amy Lassen. Amy, good morning. Always good to see you.
Good morning.
So today we are talking about being laser focused on listings because we want more listings.
Yes.
I think everybody has enough buyers. Where do you want to start with this topic?
Well, I loved it that Eyerusalem read us the tips from that article. I think that was a great overview of what's happening. And if agents aren't engaging in some of those activities, they need to know that the investors in their market certainly are. So direct mail to desirable neighborhoods, services like Remind that some of, do any of your jurisdictions have Remind as a part of their MLS?
Yeah,
okay.
Certainly Bright. I'm not sure about Rain. Yes.
Yeah, sure. So Remind is a way of looking for people most likely to sell, although I honestly think we should ignore that and just talk to everybody, because once you tell them what their house is worth, anybody's a likely seller. She mentioned builders for sale by owner, and then methods being direct mail, social media, and email. And I agree with all of those. So if agents don't have a strategy for going after listings, they just need to know that the investors in their markets definitely do. I get texts not infrequently saying, "Oh, we love your house. We'd love to buy it," which, they know nothing about my house. So
right. Yeah, at least once a week.
Doing that to everybody. Yeah,
yep.
Right. So that's where I want to start. Do it or be left behind.
Okay. So talk to me about, I've been telling my coaching clients that the easiest way to get listings is to talk to the people that we already know.
Dear heavens, yes.
So, inevitably, when I ask the question, have you spoken to everybody that you know about real estate in the last 90 days? The answer is no.
No.
So I think it starts there. There's listings in those hills, right? There's listings in the hills where our people live. And we just need to be in touch with them before we go, I think, chasing some of these other methods.
Oh, absolutely. We have to start there. I think you said there's listings in them that are hills. Of course, they might sell their house if they knew what it was worth. And normally I coach against that. I say, we don't persuade people to move. That's not what we do for a living.
Right.
We just persuade them that we're the right person to call when they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some of that too. If they have forgotten about you and that you have good skill, it's time to remind them. But you also have an opportunity to keep them in the know about what's going on. And I've shared before that I feel so fortunate to have really smart, active agents in my own brokerage to mastermind with every week. And we continually surprise and shock one another every single week with what the news is, with updating one another about what's happening. How the heck could the consumer public be in the know about what's truly happening? So you have a lot to share, and they may or may not want to move. And I think you just have to have a good attitude about calling your own sphere. Charlie, what would you say are the reasons agents don't? If it's so effective, why don't they do it?
Fear that it's been a long time since they've spoken to them. That's definitely one of them. They don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Right. That's, that they don't want to seem salesy.
Yeah.
And, I think you and I both have the same response. Well, then don't sound salesy.
Right.
If you don't want to sound salesy, then don't sound salesy. Right.
Right.
Call and make it about them.
Yeah.
So I think those are probably the top three. And a lot of that is, it's just in your mind. I joke with agents that there's nobody sitting in the parking lot of the title company, right? That after you bought the home, you go down to your car to drive away, and somebody doesn't tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, Amy Lassen is going to reach out to you quarterly by phone. She's going to invite you to a client event once a year. You're going to get 2 e-newsletters from her every month, and you're going to get something in the mail from her, every month, and then some sort of a cookie or a cake, on your birthday. Nobody says that. There's no expectation. Right. There's no expectation that's set. So we need to get out of our own heads that we think that there is. And you've said so many times, if you feel the need to apologize that you've not been in touch, then apologize.
Yeah.
Start with that. Oh my gosh,
Sure.
it's been so long. I'm so sorry. Then blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this case, I would be very direct. I wouldn't call it, say, it's been too long. How the heck are you? Because this is my personal bias, which is not coaching. I don't like being buttered up so that someone can ask me for something. And people who I know who knows me, I know who cares about me. When somebody I hardly know calls and butters me up and asks how my kids are so that they can ask me to sell them or, buy something from them, give them, it really annoys me. So for me, I think call and apologize that it's been too long and say, but I have a really important reason for calling, right? And then explain. Our market is unprecedented for, the sales rate, the sales prices, to say, I don't know if you know, because if I weren't doing the research on nearly a weekly basis, I wouldn't. And just tell them, we were at this much year over year, because I started tracking this by quarter, Charlie. I was doing chunks in the MLS, and I went back a year and a half, and it was like we were at 10% year over year increase, and then it was 12, and now we're at 20% year over year. So we've got this pitch. I'm able to draw a line now, So they may or may not want to sell, but now I'm top of mind in case anyone does. And so that's the conversation to have. Have you had any thoughts of selling this year or next year at these unprecedented high prices? No, we're going to stay put. Now, what percentage of them will say no? Almost all.
Right, most.
Not everybody's going to move. Okay, so 90% will say no, and it's not personal. So don't get out your closing techniques, because that's not what we're doing. And say, well, that makes sense. Can you think of anybody? Can you think of anybody who's thinking of selling? And they're, again, going to say no, because they don't know everyone else's business.
Right.
And that's okay, right? And say, well, the way things work, now that we've talked about it, you're going to come upon somebody who is. So please, please, please give me a call. I'm having to think outside the box and be really proactive to serve the buyers that I have and find homes for them, which is true. And if you personally don't have this long list of needy buyers, you can say, we here at Remax Allegiance have more buyers than homes to show them. That's true. That's true.
Right.
So now you're just planting the seed and trying to be top of mind. Most of us have a database of 200 names, right? If you've been in your marketplace or been in the business, you've lived in an area or been in business in an area for more than 5 years, you know a lot of people. So that would be the number one. I would say start there, go through that list. The other thing that Charlie, you and I both strongly advocate is giving home value reports to people.
Right.
You can go into RPR. You can use another service like HomeBot, right? You can get people understanding on a regular basis what's going on. So an RPR would be a one-off. If you set them up on HomeBot, they would get updates on a regular basis. It just keeps you top of mind. It's branded to you, right? You issue a disclaimer that it's not perfect, that this is an automated valuation model. So those are ways to convince your own sphere that it could be a good time and to just make you top of mind. But all those other ideas that Eyerusalem mentioned work too. So what else would you do for sphere, Charlie, when we're trying to get the highest possible number? Calling 200 people, you might have 5 listing appointments in the next 2 weeks if you could pound through that list.
Yeah, no. So I think it's just the regular cadence of calls. We want to be calling them quarterly. And we all have that number in our business plan of how many people we want to be having conversations with to reach our income goal. But we also need to be doing the math on the number of people that we know to be talking to them quarterly, right? Because that may actually be a higher number.
Sure.
And so, whichever number is higher is what we want to, I think, be focused on. And then when we get a listing, what are we doing to make sure that we get more? What's our mindset around, this one listing? Am I going to, how are we dealing with the neighbors? I've been coaching people to send out 3 different pieces of mail for every listing that we get once it goes under contract, right? And it's a letter, hey, hand addressed, stamped, it doesn't go through the postage meter. It doesn't look like it's a form letter. And it's, goes to the neighbors, and we got 9 offers. I know 8 other people that still want to live in your neighborhood, right? Give me a call if you have any, thoughts of selling. Your neighbor's now under contract for above list price. So that goes out, the day after you go under contract. You don't need to wait until you're closed. And then after you close, I think it's the letter from the homeowner the goodbye letter that talks about how great Amy Lassen was and the things that, she did, and to give her, a call if you've had any thoughts of selling. And then a couple weeks later, it's the just sold card that talks about everything you did to prep the home, the results that you got while it was on the market, and then the ultimate result, 9 offers, sold for 50,000 above list or whatever it is. We're having agents that are doing that are getting, listings from those efforts. And the people that I've been talking to, I don't know that they've thought about putting that much effort into it. They were just going to do just one sold postcard that didn't really explain all the marketing that they did, right? It just sold for, $850, and that was that. The same postcard they would have sent a few years ago. So I think it's the past clients and Sphere being in touch with them at a high level. And it's when we are fortunate to get a listing, making sure that we're capitalizing on that.
Absolutely. And we have a class at Remax Allegiance on listing leverage. Yeah. Leverage every single listing as a proof of concept, right? To show off your expertise. You're going to get way more referrals from your Sphere if they see the work that you're doing. And so what you're talking about, mailing to neighbors, can be a component of your listing leverage, right? Right. So it's all the things that you mail and who you mail them to, but it's also the things that you post on social and the conversations that you have. So follow a standard listing leverage checklist. And if you're serious about getting listings, don't make excuses and say, well, but I put it on the market and it sold in a day, so I didn't have time to market. Who's the one that put it on the market without a plan?
Right.
Who's the one that got a call on Thursday and put it on the market on Friday? Well, the seller told me they had to. Are you sure? Are you sure the seller had a 24-hour turnaround time that was absolutely do or die? They don't know. They called a professional.
Yep.
They said, we want to sell our house. Say, terrific. Let's talk about how this works.
And are you sure that you don't want to have an open house?
Sure.
We hear that, right? Well, there's just nothing to hold open. I accept my offer Friday night or Saturday. Okay, well, hold it open anyway if you've already been advertising it.
Sure.
Right. And it may give you an opportunity, whether you want more buyers or not, it may give you an opportunity to meet neighbors. We have all gotten listings because the neighbor has strolled into our open house, liked us, and then a week later, that nosy neighbor calls us and they want to sell.
Sure.
It's another opportunity to get in front of people and meet people, right? And that's what this business is all about, right?
Yeah.
The agent that talks to the most people typically wins, and an open house is a way to do that.
Yes. Well, in my market, Charlie, I think that's going to have to wait because we are bumper to bumper on
showings.
You have 50 showings in a day. There's no space for an open. And then thanks to our COVID guidelines in Colorado, you're only allowed to have 2 people in a home at a time. So it's basically like showings. So
we are certainly not that regulated here.
Okay, got it. We are right up there with California on the amount of hysteria that we have in Colorado for our properties. So that was according to the NAR map. That may or may not be accurate, but that was a fascinating map. If anybody hasn't seen it, we should share that. We should post that. So I think having a plan for launching every property, when somebody says, I have to be on the market tomorrow, it's going to be almost never that's the case. Mm-hmm. So when someone says, I want to sell my house, get curious, find out everything, and then still do your property preparation. Don't say, well, I didn't need to stage it. Everything sells. It doesn't matter if it's a piece of crap. Charlie, when I've done my detailed buying strategy sessions with just a microscope on the stats in the MLS on Zoom with buyers, and I've done this with coaching clients, I show them the average list to sell ratio, right? 104.53% of asking. But then I say, but look at this. Of the 31 that sold in the last 30 days, this one was a turkey. This one went for 95% of asking. And look, the shiny one, and I circle it, the shiny one got 119%. So I'm trying to point out that if you want to be the shiny one, right? So to say you can sell anything, you don't have to try, that's true. But those aren't the ones that go for 119% of asking, right?
Right.
So listing leverage still has property preparation built in. And then that property preparation gets packaged up in videos that market my expertise. Hi, we're here on staging day. Hi, we're here with the videographer. Hi, whatever it is. And if coming soon is prohibited in your jurisdiction, then do whatever's appropriate, right? You don't have to say, this house at 123 Gold is coming soon next week. You don't have to say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just show off your expertise as a very careful and conscientious listing agent. There is so much you could do around having a social media strategy. And so this is built into the listing leverage, but come up with listing specific stuff. Charlie, I said this to my own mastermind and my coaching clients. I said to them, for some odd reason, agents, and it's apparently subconscious, talk about buying all the time. It's what they post.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky buyer. Hey, I'm out showing. Buyer, 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 buyer.
Right.
They kind of squinted at me like they weren't sure it was true. And then apparently one of them ran off and looked while we were continuing to talk. And she's like, it's true. That's all I ever talk about. So think about that. Think about the voice that you're using when you're posting on social and what are you talking about, and skew your stuff to be listing specific. So talk about the list to sell ratios in certain neighborhoods. Talk about the desirability of certain neighborhoods. Talk about what you did to get the home sold. Do those case study videos and post those, right? You can talk about selling on your terms. I came up with a goofy list of seller-specific video ideas. I have a coaching client in a second home market, and she started pointing out that some people just don't want to deal with the chaos, and they're interested in selling off market. And strangely enough, my only 2 deals right now that I have under agreement are off market deals. And I tried to talk them out of it. I tried to convince the consumer to go on the market, and they didn't want to, and they had other plans. So you can do videos around, can you sell your home without the circus parading through your living room? And just get people to engage with the content, right? Who needs a listing agent in a market like this? You could do a video about that, right? Like, people may think that. Could they sell it without an agent? Absolutely. Could they sell it for 18% above asking and vet the buyers adequately and control all that and avoid what we have as a 30% bounce rate in our MLS?
Right. Yeah, which is a shocking number. It really is.
Do you guys know what yours is?
I read that it's 25 to 30% nationwide. And you've got people that are crying and fighting to get something under contract, and they're walking because they get caught up in the moment.
Yeah.
And they finally win, and then they have this winner's remorse, like, oh shoot, should I have paid $40,000 over list?
Yeah.
And then oftentimes people try to get out, and there's no outs. So then we've got that problem, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have issues. Now, I think we all need to address, perhaps, if you don't have it in your arsenal of tools yet, what happens when the potential seller says, well, I'd love to get 800. Are you kidding? I could get 800,000 for my house. I love that idea. Where would I move? Right? So be prepared for that. A couple of the things that you can do is they could list their home contingent. They could say, we'll sell if we find a place to move.
Right.
They can accept offers as contingent.
This is a great video, by the way, right? I mean, doing a video that is on, I want to move, but I don't want to be homeless. Well, you've got a plan for that, and here it is, right? Da 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 da.
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
And you don't have to give away all the secret sauce. Like, if you don't want to give away your clauses to other agents in your videos, you don't have to. But you can say, we have things that we write in the contract to protect you. We can make it contingent upon you finding the home you want to sell. We can negotiate a lease back for the amount of time that you need and list off all the options. But I would say, now this is coaching. If somebody says, well, yeah, I'd love to get 800,000, but where would I move? Don't start solving their problem. You don't know enough about their problem. Say, well, that's interesting. What are you thinking? Like, you got to know more. And this is just, coaching on communicating with people. You've got to know more about what they truly need. If you start hammering them with clauses and addenda and things like that, I don't think you're actually getting into their heart and getting into their motivation. So that's the first thing I would do, is explore more what they really need. Right? No.
I think that's good advice. What are some other ways to get listings? I was thinking just general market updates that you could then run as ads, right? These are video market updates. That's I think something smart to do, and it's not hard to do. We
Nope.
should all be doing a market update on video, and hopefully
Yep.
that video ends up in our e-newsletter, right? And there's no reason why it can't be on YouTube and social media and, and everything else. And not just going over the stats, but then discussing what the stats mean for the consumer. What does 103%, list price to sales price ratio mean? Nobody knows unless they're a real estate agent, right?
Yes,
Right.
right.
What's that mean for buyers? Trouble. What's it mean for sellers? Good news, right?
Yes.
So I think explaining all of that and getting over that fear of video. So you talked about some videos, and I think adding that market update is important.
I think it's hugely important, and you can stretch out your ability to stay in front of the camera by doing your market updates, like by zip code or by some areas or by significant neighborhoods, like whatever you think. I had a coaching client ask, should I do it for this one neighborhood? And I said, I don't know, how big is it? And she said 100 homes. I said, no. If you want to target those 100 homes, go knock on their doors.
Right.
But for video, doing it area by area and just do one a day or one a week. Just keep updating. Hey, we're here and we're here to talk about the stats for Black Forest or whatever. We have that where I am, and talk about what's been happening the year over year and everything else. I think that really can brand you as an expert, right?
We no, I agree. And speaking of door knocking, we had Rich DiGiovanna, who runs the Facebook group Doctors of Door Knocking and is one of our associates, speak to us for about a half hour during our sales meeting this week about door knocking.
Wow.
And he knows he makes at least $1,000 an hour door knocking because he meets people and he stays in touch with them, and he knows that a certain number of those people will list.
Yeah.
And he's not been door knocking because he's been too busy, right? I mean, and he wants to form a team of door knockers.
Yeah.
But he thinks now is it's appropriate, at least in our market, Northern Virginia, to be door knocking again with a mask and using common sense. But I thought if anybody missed that presentation, going back and watching it, I think is important, because he shared his scripts. He and I role played it. I mean, it was very, very powerful.
Wow.
And he keeps in touch with these people. And I think he said he's got a couple active listings now that are from when he door knocked a couple years ago. And he gets their email addresses because he provides value. And then, and I thought that this was quite brilliant, he said something along the lines of, I don't know this neighborhood as well as you do. Mm-hmm. And if I have somebody who's interested in it, would you mind if I gave you a call if they have questions about the neighborhood? Who's the best babysitter? Where's the best ice cream? Right? That's how he gets the phone numbers. People are like, sure. And then he gets the phone number, and then what's he do? He calls them. He calls them quarterly to check in on them.
Oh, that's amazing.
So he's got their email address and their phone number. I think he said 80% of the time he gets one or the other.
Oh, wow.
And he's a gregarious guy.
Sure.
And he said his trick is he says cha-ching to himself before he knocks on the door. So he's smiling when he knocks. I mean, this is brilliant, but it's so basic.
Yeah. So he's knocking just random neighborhoods?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. So these are neighborhoods in Lake Ridge, which is in, the Woodbridge area of Northern Virginia. Yeah. Knock, 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 knock. Just goes right through.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But capturing their information so he can follow up, that's the key.
Yep. And he builds rapport with them. He writes a personal note. If he meets the dog and the dog's name is Fido, he'll say, hey, Amy, it was great meeting you and Fido, the other day when I knocked, right? I hope you guys have a, great rest of the spring. Stay in touch. Best wishes, Rich, right? He said everybody that he talks to gets a note. So he has a system. Imagine that. Yes. He has a system.
But I hear one of the things that's key is, yes, that he has a system, but part of his system is just to follow up with these people. He has their contact information.
Yes.
Because the thing that I caution people about when they say they want to randomly door knock or randomly mail to a neighborhood once and never go back is, I think you'd be better off farming where your fertilizer will affect the soil over time. But in his case, he's capturing people and staying in touch. So
and he goes back and he door knocks the same areas as well. I don't know if he mails into those neighborhoods. That would be a good question for him. But he did say if you're farming as in the traditional mail, right, you need to be door knocking too.
Of course.
They need to be putting a face to the photo. And he said, make sure your photo looks like your face. All right. That way, if you do door knock, they're like, wait, you're Rich? You look 20 years older in person, right? So, make sure the high school photo is updated.
Absolutely.
Any last minute thoughts?
I think you've brought the wrap up, which is have a system. So
Yeah.
create a system for what you post being listing attracting, for leveraging every listing with no excuses that the market's too fast. Even if you come up with 5 things that you do routinely to market every single listing, do it. Do it consistently, create the time for it, have a plan. And then with your own sphere, like you said, map it out, do it quarterly. But I would say sprint right now. As people are becoming vaccinated, as things are lifting, as people have more options and school is letting out, people are going to be making some decisions. So I would not drag it out and say, by the end of the year, I will have called all 200 people. I would sprint and do it sooner than later.
I think that's great advice. Always good to see you. We'll see you back here next week. Have a good weekend.
Wonderful. Bye, everybody.
Back over to Eyerusalem.
Thank you so much for watching. And as always, we're here to make your real estate career better.
Have a great Friday, everybody.